What's up, Solar Warriors? Today is Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. My name is Jarrett McAllister, the virtual Solar Pro. This is Tuesday training. If you're watching the recording, don't worry about that blooper in the beginning. We will trim that. But like, subscribe, share with all your fellow solopreneurs. I'm alongside my co-host down at Powur headquarters, Mr. Jonathan Bernasso. What up, son?
Good morning, everybody. That's right, live from Carlsbad, the land of paper cups in Carlsbad. I don't know why they do that at Starbucks, but aside from that, we're at headquarters here, getting ready for Leadership Summit, hanging out with Jonathan Budd yesterday. Charles got in town last night. A few of you guys are coming in this week. Super excited to be with 80 amazing people Thursday, Friday, and Solar Saturday. Hope you registered for that. So super pumped for that, Jarrett. Ready to go.
Awesome. No, it is exciting times. And you know what? I just got to throw this out there. I have to wish my beautiful mother, God bless her soul, happy birthday, Christine McAllister, the one who birthed me. Today is her birthday. And yeah, so just celebrating that today. But let's celebrate your wins like we do every single week. If you crushed it this past week, we want to hear from you. Raise your hand, drop it in the chat. I will call on you. As you guys are doing that, I just want to give a quick win that I had this past week. I had a project that was stuck with Sonova, wasn't going to get installed. It was right at the finish line. I tapped into tech support. Mr. Jordan Shaw, he helped me out with a nice little script, got it switched over to GoodLeap, and now that project is getting installed. So that was my huge win, was able to make it happen. Thank you for Powur for all these different options. So give us the ability to pivot, because who wants to install projects when you're not going to get paid, right? So really appreciate that. Next up on the list, we have Jordan. I know you are on your way to a real estate event. What you got cooking, bro?
Yes, indeed. Congrats on your pivot. I pivoted another one on Friday myself, so there you go.
Good job.
So there's yeah, I got a win as well last week. So we spent, as you know, Melia and I spent a good amount of time in the Marina Del Rey Home Depot store at one point, and we got a lot of different connections, and one of which panned out to be a real estate agent that referred us out to a homeowner who has a home in Palm Springs, but also has a Maui home as well. So last week, we've been kind of working on them for a couple months, figuring out what the numbers are going to be, trying to figure out the roofing. They found a roofer they liked, got that approved as a $44,000 roof. Signed the contract last week for $112,000. And so we are starting our next project on the Valley Isle. So we got that one locked in last week, which I'm super excited about.
Awesome. Awesome. Great job, Jordan. And hey, thanks again for helping me out with that pivot, dude. -1 credit. All right. Who's next? Who else has a win? I know Bill had one, but his audio and video just went out. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share before we move on to our killer training and some updates?
On the pivots, we'll get to Josh here in just a sec. On the pivots, changing lenders, changing providers, or any major change order, guys, I went ahead and dropped a video in the chat, how you present options, order of operations, how you bring the energy, how you position it, how you're helping the homeowner, giving them options. So I highly recommend listen to that and do the scripts. And then I was just going to shout out John Charles Wilson here, because he has flipped multiple jobs over away from one TPO lender that fired 300 people yesterday morning to better and newer providers. So shout out to John and his team as well.
You talking about Sonova?
I can.
I don't care anymore. Anyways, Josh, what do you got going, bro? Shut me up. I'm gonna get us in trouble.
What up, fellas? Good morning. So Palm Springs got me thinking to piggyback off of Jordan, and I moved over a client from an old installer because they were just taking too long to push through. And with Powur allowing us to use our own roofers, I was able to bring a roofer on board and get this project moving. And so now we have another project in the portal pending to sign today.
That's what I'm talking about. Great job, Josh. Appreciate you, man, for sharing that. Well, look, we have a jam-packed training, and anytime we do a training on batteries, it always goes over. So let's just move straight to updates. What do you have, Jonathan? What's going on? What's cooking?
Yeah, I don't have too much today, guys. Obviously, Leadership Summit and Power 4.0 announcements are this Saturday. So my biggest thing today is going to be make sure to register for Solar Saturday virtual on Power Calendar to hear about the new Power 4.0, the new rollouts, the new ways we're going to grow and have lead gen, and be ready for success to crush this summer, guys. You really want to make sure to attend that. Future trainings, Leadership Summit, Solar Saturday, as I mentioned, SolarCon in Las Vegas in person, and then of course Power World Las Vegas. But Tuesdays you can expect a training on how to utilize the new Power 4.0 rollouts that are coming. You can expect some health, wellness, mindset training, and then you can expect a referral training from John Wilson, and then you can expect new construction ADU training. So that's all in the next 4 or 5 Tuesdays. So obviously tune in to this Tuesday training. All right, so social media shareable of the day. Let's let some more people in here. Is gonna be this picture of Power headquarters. Why not? Because that's where I'm at right now. And I think people are impressed by our corporate headquarters and where we get to work. So I'm going to put this image in the chat, and it'll be up in the Google Drive folder as well. And this will be kind of a, make it your own, but here's social media post here that ChatGPT helped me write. Now hiring, want to add income with a winning team. Big changes are coming in the next few weeks. Be part of something massive. We have multiple ways to earn income. If you or someone you know is looking for additional income or a career change, comment below and DM me. So feel free to make it your own. Very nonchalant, not too salesy. Awesome Power corporate headquarters. Obviously the solar conference room table and the green wall behind the TV there. So pretty cool stuff. I highly recommend sharing social media content at least once or twice a week. And that's going to be the social media shareable of the day. I haven't even read the newsletter, to be honest, from yesterday that came out. So make sure to read the newsletter, attend your market development call, and let's go ahead and move into today's training. So one of the great battery brands that we get to represent on the Power platform is Franklin. They've always been a strong partner of ours, and some of the nerdiest, geekiest sellers, Owen and Jordan Shaw, really like Franklin a lot for some reasons that we're going to get to learn today. And Justin, you've always been super helpful in your team, and I know you have an account manager that oversees Power as well, and you have some new products to tell us about. And batteries, guys, I don't care what state you're in. If you're in Illinois, if you're in North Carolina, there's new incentives. You need to know about batteries, and today's training is all about that. So Justin, appreciate you being on. Take it away.
My pleasure, John. I appreciate you. Yeah, as Jarrett said, these battery trainings always go pretty psycho. So I'm going to jump right into it. If we haven't met, you guys, my name is Justin Hopkins. So I'm Senior Director of Strategic Accounts at Franklin, employee number 5 or 4. And so we've been here since the beginning. And it's, again, we love groups like Power because not only is it such a diverse company with different type of sellers and different type of markets, but you guys are deeply invested in not only your message, but what you guys are doing for consumers, protecting them, doing the right thing. So really excited to introduce our new latest product. I know, like you said, John, Owen and Jordan, very familiar with this battery because we probably talk to these guys 3 days a week. But want to walk a little bit, kind of do a thing. Can you guys see my screen okay? Perfect. So I do a little thing called what they say and what Ben says, right? Sometimes it's nice to be self-aware, dispel some of the rumors and kind of address them right up front, right? And talk about it. So we hear often, right? The number one complaint about Franklin Whole Home is that our battery is heavy, right? You've probably heard it from your installers. It's extremely robust product that clocking in around 360 pounds with the new aPower2. But good news is your installers have access now to the Franklin WH lifting dolly, right? So it makes it really easy. I know solar going up, a few other installers for you guys are using it. And they're able to do these installs with just 2 people and a lifting dolly. So if your installers are complaining about Franklin, how heavy it is, tell them to get on board and get one of these dollies from their distribution company. Makes life a lot easier. This one's a little more technical, right? What they say, Franklin whole home isn't modular enough, right? There's too many homes that need smaller batteries or smaller intervals and don't need 15 kilowatt hour. Hear it a lot, believe it or not. Well, I'm going to ask you guys a question. What homeowner do you know that doesn't need 15 kilowatt hours of storage that's looking into solar, right? Every day at a minimum, right? That's really only about 5,400 kilowatt hours a year per battery at 15, right? And the average system size at Powur is, I think, 8.1 was the most recent data, which means that system is generating close to 12,400 kilowatt hours a year. And you're trying to catch it with a little like tiny golf glove, right? Playing softball. So just something to consider, right? Make sure, are we sizing these batteries right? And the other thing is, which of these modular 30 kilowatt hour designs would you rather have, right, in your garage, right? And no knock to Enphase. The microinverters are fantastic. What they say, right? Probably the biggest objection you guys get when selling Franklin, is that we are expensive, right? It's not cheap. That's a fact, right? And but the reality is, right, you're getting more power than the competition capacity. You're getting 50% better warranty. You've got better reviews and arguably the most reliable battery on the market, easily recorded, right? So if you want to send your homeowners down a Franklin WH rabbit hole, they're probably going to come back and buy your system. You can trust the internet to win the day for you there. We've got more integration and features, generator modules, smart circuits, 280 amp bus bar on the A gate, allowing you to avoid MPUs. And then it's also super safe, right? This is a product that has a history of never having a safety problem, right? No thermal runaway. And we'll talk about that. But one of my favorite quotes this from Ben Franklin himself, right? The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten. So let's talk about one last thing. We hear it all the time, right? Franklin is a new company from China, just a little Chinese baby in the market, and they don't have any bankability. They don't have any history. So for those of you that don't know us, we were founded in 2019. So we've actually been at this for a minute. Headquartered in San Jose since 2021. We manufacture in California as well as in China. We have over 340 employees, and 70% of those people are in R&D, meaning research and development, just in a back room, blowing shit up, having a good time, see how strong they can make this product. The other thing that's really interesting with Franklin is we've only ever lost about 2% of our employees on a turnover rate. So the people that work here have a tendency to stay here. They amass a lot of knowledge, and every single person here that you're going to encounter with is going to be able to give you what you're looking for, more than likely. Backed by Sequoia Capital, no small business. And then also our Series B was brought by Particle Future. And every battery in the market, I'm going to say this with zero issues, including Tesla and Enphase, is using components from China and manufacturing in China. I want to be very clear, right? The domestic content game is not like, oh, we're just making everything in America now, right? Small pieces of product are allocated for third-party owned stuff so they can get those tax credits, whereas everything's still being made in China and people are just eating the tariffs. So this has been a real big focus of us the last year and a half, which is to build a plant in the US and start manufacturing with our same contract partner we use overseas here in San Jose. So for those of you in California, this will also be eligible for the SGIP, additional 20% California made. So something to consider. You get more rebate money. So 2022, you had the A gate, the aPower, right? And now you have the aPower2 in 2024. I'm going to skip this a little bit, but a number I really like on this slide is 36 RMAs over 3 years and 21,000 batteries. Just think about that, right? Like, I know you've all had installations where customers had to have something replaced. So unless you do like 1,000 batteries with Franklin, you're probably not going to see a replacement. All right. Really, really cool stat that I like to highlight. Again, I talked about this, but we literally light these things on fire with gasoline and let them burn for hours. We drop them out of cranes to make sure that if they fell off like a warehouse, that the worker would be safe and not at risk of thermal runaway. So extreme testing, which means you got that 9540A, which is really key for AHJs, the ability to install it indoors, outdoors. And in some markets, you can actually put them together. If you're in LA, we're still dealing with 3 feet. I get it. So the story of Franklin is an underdog, right? And I know you guys are looking for stats, but I want to remind you kind of like how we got here and why this is important, because when you're at the kitchen table with homeowners, to understand the story allows you to sell with conviction and character, right? So I want you to look at these brands up here on the wall, the majority of them of which we've passed, right? Kind of crazy to think about. Like our big competition right now is Tesla and Enphase and a little bit of Solar Edge, but like the Generac, the LGs, the Sonins, like this little dude has made its way in just 2.5 years, right? Multi-billion-dollar companies. And so we love that chip on our shoulder. It's something we're proud of. A lot of people don't know Edison. He's the inventor of DC, right? Tesla, his name's taken, was the inventor of AC. But voila, people don't realize Ben Franklin actually coined the term battery. So if people are asking, well, why Franklin, right? Well, Ben Franklin was actually the first person. He used these jars as conductors for energy. Volta was the first guy to use a chemical compound to make a battery, but Ben Franklin actually coined the term battery, which leads us to where we are here. What he did not coin was the colorful light up SOC state of charge indicator on the Franklin battery, which now is fully red, green, blue, purple, pink. You can pick your color. You can be proud of your favorite sports team on Sunday and then change it back. You can go first half Eagles, second half Chiefs, right? That easy to change it. So really stoked on that. And the new product's actually coming out with backlighting, which is going to be just equally as cool. A new feature though for the aPower2 is it is whole home backup. Whoops. And you can easily power a 5-ton air conditioner with one battery. This is not everything it can do, right? This is easily power a 5-ton air conditioner with a single battery. This goes same thing for like those water heaters and those large heat pumps, right? It's 42 amps continuous or 10 kilowatt. You've got 15 kilowatt surge per battery for 10 seconds. So if I've got 2 Franklins, right, I've got 20 kilowatts of continuous power and 30 kilowatts of surge. Pretty tremendous. We've got 15 kilowatt hours of capacity up from the 13.6. But just like the 13.6, this is an actual 16 kilowatt hour battery, just like the old one was closer to a 15. So we do maintain some state of charge in case the customer drains the battery all the way. We'll talk about that in a second on Black Start, why that's important. Everything's all in one, so it comes pre-built. There's no manufacturing this on the site. This is why it is waterproof. And it's actually an off-grid battery, right? Just like the last one, out of the box. A lot of people don't realize that, right? Franklin was designed and its very first applications were used on a construction site to run rebar benders, compressors, etc. So it's an extremely robust battery. So when your customer is like, dude, I want whole home backup, right? I want to be able to run my house and be comfortable. This is a product that has sine waves that would scare most battery companies. And then LRA, for those of you that don't know what locked rotor amp is, right? That is the ability to start up large appliances, right? So per battery, you've got over 150 LRA, which is huge for you techies. For the less experienced, right? Why does capacity matter so much? It's your battery's gas tank. So it's literally how long can you run it and how much are you going to save? A lot of people don't quantify savings with capacity, but that's exactly how this works, right? We're trying to avoid energy costs, right? And that's the higher the battery, the more you're going to save. This is an example of daily savings just in San Diego Gas and Electric alone from avoided cost of power. The red is your export value in September. But this goes the same for folks in Duke, right? In North Carolina that are dealing with, big rebates for more power. Shows that you're going to save more money every day with Franklin than any of the competitors per battery with that maximum capacity, right? And really cool for power, we did not increase the price of the product to you guys, at least not for now. We'll see what happens with everything, but for now, it's staying the same for a while. So the key for this capacity, guys, this is so important. And John, you and I have had this conversation, right? Like where customers, they think they need solar, they want batteries so that they can save from the grid, but everybody's usage is so dynamic and it's so different. And we see solar being generated as, well, the sun's out and then the sun's not out, right? So it's either day or it's night. We really simplify it down and be honest with ourselves, right? But the actual sun hours, 70% of that power, guys, is generated in like a 3-4 hour slot, not even 3 hours, right? That's a 15 to 20% of your day. Very, very little, right? And you need to have a catcher's mitt big enough to capture the power that you're generating. A 10 kilowatt solar system in most sunny markets is producing at least 15,000 kilowatt hours a year. That's 41 kilowatt hours per day. If you have one battery, right, you're only able to store 5,475 of that on a 10 kilowatt. That's only a third of the energy. So unless the customer's like, honey, it's 10:30, it's 11 o'clock, do the laundry, run the pool pump, charge the car, who has that room for that in their life, right? So make sure, guys, when you're sizing these, this is why capacity is so important. Cool, I got a 12 kilowatt solar system, I got 20 kilowatt hours of Enphase. Great, right? You're only storing 25 to 30% of the energy. So lost power is lost money. Every kilowatt hour that escapes to the grid that's not compensated for, right, is increasing the customer's ROI and making the solar they're generating more expensive. It's cheaper to add more batteries than it is to not do enough long-term to what it costs the customer. So something to consider, right? High capacity is king. And again, I know there's a big DC wave, right? String inverters made a comeback this year. I don't hate string inverters. I think the south facing or single plane, even dual plane roofs, it can be nice, right? It can be easy to install. I would argue that there's an entire generation of installers that don't know how to string panels, and you guys have probably felt that in your service calls. But with AC coupled power, right, by not running the battery and the house off the same inverter, right, I'm able to significantly increase power to the household. Now with the Franklin aPower2 at 10 kilowatt continuous and my 10.5 kilowatt solar system in the middle of my roof, I'm looking at 20.5 kilowatts of output to the home during the peak of the day, right? Whereas DC competitors are maxed, right, at whatever the inverter can do, or limited, right? It's like, yeah, we're gonna zip right up there real quick, but that power's taken. Another huge difference between Franklin and our competition, starts with a T, is that their charge rate is 5 kilowatt to the battery, which means if you've got a 15 kilowatt solar system on the house and I've got a single battery and all that power is going back, right? It's only able to take a very small amount unless the home is using a ton of energy. Whereas Franklin, we've got an 8 kilowatt charge rate, which means it's going to capture 60% more of the solar that you're generating during the day for use later. That's huge, right?
Justin,
Yeah.
Can we just explain that a little bit more? So when there's a ton of solar being produced at the peak of the day on a 10, 15 kilowatt solar system, you're saying that the one power wall won't be able to absorb it all because it can't receive it quick enough, whereas the Franklin will be able to store more and not waste because it can take in more faster. Is that
Exactly.
right? Okay.
That's a great way to explain it. Yeah.
Yeah, Jonathan, Tesla was very beat around the bush when it came to that stat. Basically, they only say it's 11.5, but they never actually talk about the battery intake speed, which absolutely is only 5. So this is a big deal, I think.
Right. Yeah. When you're drinking out of like a bottle, right? Like a Coke can versus a Coke bottle versus like a wide mouth, right? It's, if you need to fill it fast, right? And that happens often. Like people don't realize how much of their production they're losing every day. Right?
What was the kilowatt charge rate on the other battery, Justin, the older one, not the new one?
5.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So it's a big improvement, right? And again, a lot of this comes down to the A gate, right? Its ability to manage it, right? It's this little MID device that sits in the middle here, which we'll talk about shortly in the next couple slides here. But one of my terms, I like to bring some education. I know we think we know what islanding is, right? John, tell me, what do you think islanding is when a system is islanding itself?
like when the grid is down and it's able to operate on its own right with some solar and the battery standalone by itself? Maybe?
Yeah, exactly. That's it, right? You've islanded your, it's basically what the system can do is it takes the power sources that are available to it and it utilizes all of them, right? When you're grid connected, right, you're using your solar, you're using your battery, and you're using the grid, right? Those are the three power sources. When the grid goes down, it's now how does the system operate on its own without that grid support? It's really important. And this is what Franklin does best, guys. Like whether you're in Florida and you're seeing power surges, right? As the grid's trying to find itself and coming online and frying up appliances to protect it. Franklin has multiple input takes, which means you could use your generator. You could have your electric vehicle doing V to L. You could have grandma running on a gerbil wheel fast enough to generate 240 volt. This battery can take it, right? So you have all this ability to manage multiple power sources. This is what gives people extremely robust multi-day backup. This is why our customers in the LA fires, some of them got through several days of no outages, the ability to island. Now, what happens is if you have too much power on the roof, too much power on the solar, and only one battery, we're gonna have to shut off that power source, right? So you wanna make sure, this is where that charge rate comes in. It's so important, right? This is how you guys are going to, this is the ability to be off grid. This is the ability to have energy freedom, but you're gonna need these stats right here, right? To be robust and strong and have enough power to get you through that from an islanding perspective. So this is kind of new. And again, why you're seeing such big rebates and incentives on Franklin is because not only is it safer, but it's more reliable, has more throughput. This is what utilities are asking for. This is what the HJs, your TPO partners, installers, everybody wants, right? Safe, reliable. That's all anybody's asking for. Well, Franklin, the new warranty, took us a while. We could have probably given it a 20-year if we wanted to wait a little while with the DMV, but the reality is we are a new company. We've only been here since 2019. We don't want to have a little bit of self-awareness. The new warranty is 15 years or 60 megawatt hours. There is no cycle count to that. We'll talk about the cycles in a minute, but take that in for a second. 60 megawatt hours. Who here knows what the Tesla warranty is?
Can you explain that a little bit more? Because we're used to seeing 60, 65, 70% in 10 years on some other batteries, I believe. So how
same thing. So this is 70% at 15 years.
That's great.
Yeah. Essentially, this is like driving a car almost 2 million miles. You guys, if I could create an analogy, it's about the same equivalent. This to give a comparison, Tesla's is a 38 megawatt hour warranty for 10 years. This is 60 for 15 years. What does that mean? I see the number one stat you guys post on your power groups, right? This customer saved $180,000 with this program, right? Jack the numbers up, right? Because from years 10 to 15, that's when it really gets expensive, right? That's why you got 25-year warranties on panels, because yeah, they're saving money today, but what about tomorrow when your bill is $1,000 a month, right? This is 15 years, no cycle limit, 60 megawatt hour throughput. There's not a better warranty in the industry. I will challenge any, unless you're going to underwrite it by some BS third-party insurance that we know those things don't pay out, right?
Justin, can you speak to the labor component of, because I know with Tesla, that's one of their selling points is that the labor is, I guess, theoretically included in their tenure. Is there any labor coverage, or what would that theoretical labor cost potentially be? Can you maybe speak to that?
Julian, that is a great question. And I love your videos, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the reality is, right, is when it comes to labor, we provide a product warranty, right? We don't have yet a dealer program, right, where the installers are essentially covered for their labor with us. If it's on a TPO, right, obviously that labor transfers over to the third party owned. But what I can tell you is how we operate, and this isn't on paper. You're gonna kind of have to go, you know how Tesla operates, right? They say the labor is covered, but then good luck, right? From our end, we don't charge customers for visits. And when the installer goes out of business, we take over the labor coverage.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. But when the installer, like when you're in business, we expect you to do the labor. If it's on us and the product fails, we cover the truck roll more than what you guys pay your workers.
I
So
know
it's
I know the majority of contractors, they hate the labor coverage because in the fine print it usually says like 250 or 400 or 150, and they're like, this is nowhere near the real cost anyways, and so it's kind of,
exactly.
yeah, okay, cool. Thank you.
We've reimbursed, we're moving our labor coverage. I think it's something close to like 750 a truck roll if they have to replace a battery. It's strong. So just again, for the nerds, looking at you guys, this one, aPower is the first residential battery to use commercial grid scale cells. That was and then aPower2 is actually the first residential battery now using 2nd generation grid scale cells. This means that 10,000 plus cycles and 70% remaining life at 15 years. So prismatic battery cells, again, we only use the highest quality. The reason we struggled to make it in America is they don't have a cell as good as what we use here yet. That's it. It's like the reason, Mercedes and made in Germany or Vietnam now, depending on where you're getting them. So new app, if you guys haven't had the chance, you can go download the new Franklin Whole Home app on the Apple Store or Google Play. There is a demo version. So when you see the blank screen, look at the bottom where it says demo mode, you can go in and show your customers how it operates. My favorite feature is there's a little Ben Franklin in there that you can press, and it gives you voice activated questions, right? So I can just say like, hey, how much power did I use today from my battery? Or this month, how much did I cycle through? So you can actually just have a conversation with the app and it talks to you. And then for those customers that are in time of use markets, you just easily scan the electric bill into the app when the installer, the homeowner is getting their configurations, depending on who's doing it. And it's going to auto set with just one click. So if you're in Arizona and you're on E27, or if you're in NEM 3.0, PGE, whatever version, 3.694, right? It's going to take that from your bill and it's going to make the settings correct on the app. Some changes on the temperature thresholds. Like we were 122 degrees prior. Now we're up to 131, and we have removed all the fans from the product. So this is actually completely solid state. There is no moving parts. I don't know if you guys have had to hear a Powerwall 3 in the wild, but when it's hot out, those things are noisy. They sound like an air conditioning unit. So with no fans, this is noise free, and we expect this to last a lot longer, long term, not having to worry about those little $5 fans in there, right? So the A-Gate, we have made some changes to this as well. Most importantly, this is going down the nerd rabbit hole. This is 1741 rated. So you can avoid, this actually replaces a service entrance, right? Suitable for use as service equipment. This is the ultimate dream. And I talk about this story a lot. There's a guy in PG&E. He was one of the first guys to get a big Franklin system, 4 batteries. Shut off the main breaker in his panel because he was pumped, right? Energy freedom. It's got solar, his generator. He's living the dream. PG&E shows up to his house with the sheriff and is like, you got to turn that back on, dude. He's like, come on through me. They're like, no, that's not how it works. The main breaker has to stay on legally. Here's the documents. So after a bunch of huffing and puffing, they leave. He goes into his Franklin app and hits the off-grid button, which essentially turns the relay, right, to disable the grid, which he can legally do, and now run off his solar and his generator and his batteries without having to break the law with PG&E. So literally with this service equipment rating, what this achieves is true energy freedom, right? The ability to shut off the grid when you want. So depending on the markets, I know you guys aren't big in Arizona, but here in AZ, we have demand charges that they can hit you $300, $400 a month on bills just because you used a certain amount of energy for 30 minutes. So lots of different reasons why that becomes important. Again, most times you're not going to have to do main panel upgrades. There are certain AHJs that are going to require them, but engineering at franklinwh.com. If you are faced with that, do not hesitate to reach out, right? Engineering at franklinwh.com, and we will help you guys with your SLDs and help you find a solution to help avoid MPUs. You can use any 240 volt generator still, as long as it's 60 hertz, standalone or portable. We're now optioned for vehicle to load. So customers with Ford Lightnings can use the generator charger out of the back, the 30 amp, to plug it into the generator module on the A gate that looks like this. Here we go. So this is your configuration. So you guys see that little thing in the back corner? All the Ford Lightnings have them. That will allow you to plug into that, bring that into your generator mod on a 2-wire start, and use that to extend the life of your battery. So power the home. It's pretty cool. Generator modules look like this. It's an additional piece that goes into the gateway, and typically it's around 600 to, I don't know what you guys charge, but to anywhere between $600 and $800 to add it with labor. The optional smart circuits. Jarrett, tell me what a smart circuit does.
I don't have a clue, dude. Why don't you tell me?
I love it. So this is where I want to put my large loads that I want to have more control over, right? It's a span panel for dummies. It's the easiest way to describe it, right? I've got 80 amp, which means I can land my electric vehicle. And then I've got a 50 amp, which is good for and ACs, pool pumps, maybe washers and dryers. Things that I want to be able to set my battery to turn off if my state of charge gets too low, right? I'm halfway through my battery. I'm going to shut my AC off. I don't care if I wake up sweating. I need to have my fridge, my cold water, my food, right? Whatever it is, how people want to control it. I got a lady in Hawaii, turns the hot water off on her teenagers constantly. Like, get out, boy, right? Get to school. So there's little different ways that you can control it. But the easiest way to explain it is it's essentially a $300-400 part that does everything that span panel does just for a few circuits. And it's for most people, this is enough, right? To get them that load shedding that they need for duration outage. And then the AP box. Not going to go down a rabbit hole on this one, guys, but for those of you that are doing add-on systems, this is clutch, right? This is going to allow you to bring in an old system with the new system. This is going to allow you to add up to 45 kilowatts of solar on a single battery system without doing an MPU, right? So if you're looking at a customer who's looking at 15 grand of line work to get the transformer redone, sell them a Franklin battery and an AP box, right? Now they have backup power and they won't have to redo the transformer, right? Because we're going to island it. We're going to keep it away from the grid with PCS rating. So a lot of cool little features. So the AP box, that's how you're going to retrofit your systems. And again, look at your pricing internally, what that's going to cost you. You have your smart circuits. I can turn off and on cool appliances. Maybe on vacation, I got somebody using too much AC, right? I want to teach them a lesson. And then your generator module, right? So these are all pieces you're going to want to consider that, again, these make the Franklin system super robust, right? Because now your customer is like, okay, if I want to add generator in the future, if I want to get an electric car, I won't have to do an MPU on my panel. If I want to add more batteries or more solar, these all become options. We do have a meter collar coming for you guys. I expect we will announce it officially the start of this next month. Since it takes a couple weeks anyway to get PG&E and SCE to come out and swap these. But we do have an amazing third-party partner that we are working with. And then we also have another third-party partner for other states like Arizona, et cetera, through Connector. So expect the meter collar to come in really hot the start of Q2 this year. Again, our commitment is less boxes on walls. So this year we'll be releasing an A-Gate Mini, right? A ladder A-Gate. We'll have a connector controller. We'll also be releasing the aPower2, which allows you to put smart circuits, generator connector, and a PV breaker, all of it into one tiny little box, connect that through the meter collar. So again, cost down options to make this less expensive. And then USA made domestic content, which we're really excited about. It was the factory here in San Jose, and already tools are up and running, and we're doing test products, just making sure, you know, it comes out the way we want to for domestic content. The first half of the year, all that product is spoken for, but you will see that on the second half of the year on partners like Sonova, Good Leap, etc. So just as a recap, because like we said, these always go long, but 30 minutes, it's halfway decent. And we open up questions. So retrofit market, right? Pair with any existing solar system. You've got feature rich smart circuits, B2L generator, the ability to black start the system when the battery is completely drained because I got extra power, right? We get better rebates in California now with domestic California content from the SGIP side. With 15 kilowatt hour capacity and 16 megawatt hour throughput, you guys are going to see better VPP numbers for your clients in San Diego, Texas, North Carolina, right? More capacity, more output means more money when it comes to incentives.
Hey,
So-
Justin, is the AP box approved with Powur? Because to my knowledge, they won't do add-ons to hooking existing systems up to it. Do you know if they are going to be approving the AP box?
I know you guys have used it, right? Because it's also been used as a load shedding device or a PV shedding, Julian. So the AP box can also be used if I oversize like Enphase on one battery. So I know you guys have used it in the past for that.
Okay, just maybe not tying into an existing system, at least with Powur.
Yeah, I don't know what your guys' plans are there for it. I kind of try to stay out of Ethan and John's office as much as possible to let them do what they're going to do. Chris and I communicate pretty regularly.
Well, if it matters, I've lost a lot of deals because we won't tie into existing systems. So if they approve this AP box,
Mhm.
that would be pretty sweet. Just a word from the the crowd out here selling it to the actual people.
I'll reach out to Chris Bunch, Justin, see if I can get some updates around that.
Yeah. Get with Michael and Tristan. So Tristan Cronshaw, he's your guys' product manager. He's arguably, I think, one of the best in the business that I've ever worked with. He also happens to be a sick pro surfer. Surfs like 30-foot waves. But he's really solid. So get Chris and Tristan, let them play in the sandbox, John, and you'll come up. I think you guys will come up with a really sharp solution. So for net metering, like we said, for best ad for expansion systems, but also just in general, right? For net billing, you get the best possible capacity with the best export. Current RMA rate at 0.21%. And then product, right? So you guys, I know you're hurting. Supply has been a pain point for the entire industry. Powerwall 3 was incredibly popular, and I could see why. That being said, right, once we get your guys' forecast, once we get you orders in, you've never had a supply issue with us once, and you never will, right? As long as we have that foresight. So we do tell your people, hey, it's about a 75-day lead time, POs coming in where we can fulfill them. So keep the forecasting moving, right? Your distributors are on it. Also, your guys' new procurement guy is awesome. Dallas, John and I were talking about him yesterday. So shout out to Dallas. He's exceptional. So lastly, we have a bunch of resources for you here. You can screenshot this and use this for later. What's not up here is my secret little training portal. It is not officially launched, but you guys can go to it. It is franklinwh.xyz. Okay. So it's early on in its iteration. We're going to be adding a lot more content in the next month or two, including podcasts, etc. But go to franklinwh.xyz. That's the Certified Sales Pro portal. You'll be able to get certified as a salesperson. You get a cool little Apple Wallet ID that goes in there. You can go up to levels past gold. When we get to hero status, meaning you've installed 10 jobs, you've recorded it into the system, you'll start being eligible for spiffs and contests. So the kind of the evolution of the Franklin sales experience, it's very, very early on, but we'll be working heavily on this for the next year. So one caveat, when you're in the Franklin XYZ, make sure up in the upper right-hand corner where it says to fill out your information, make sure you complete that or it will lock you out after 2 videos.
What was that website, Justin?
franklinwh.xyz.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's actually .xyz. That threw me off too.
Yeah, I
so-
dropped it in the chat. I beat you. I had to do it for Tom.
Awesome. And there's comparison docs in the documentation center. If you want to get, reach out to Michael Carter, or if you're on the East Coast, reach out to Tony, or in the South in Florida, talk to Justin Parrish, right? If you're in Texas, I don't know if you guys do Texas, but that's Ryan McClister, who manages all the way up, right? Texas up into essentially the Dakotas. If you're in the Northwest, you're selling PNW, you've got, or NorCal, you guys have David Larson. So all these reps, if you haven't met them, if you haven't talked to them, don't just reach out. Their names are their names and a dot. So I'll send some resources and a new, kind of a one sheet to you guys with all the new aPower2 data. John, can I trust you? You guys can distribute to the team accordingly, however you want to put it.
Yeah, if you want to send me the deck, and then we can include it in the training and put it in the shares as well.
Perfect. Do you guys have any other questions on the product?
Yeah, I think a couple questions came in. Feel free to raise your guys' hands. We'll call on you. We do have about 10 minutes left. So, hey, Justin, first of all, thank you so much, man, for going through there. Did an excellent job. Super exciting. I love the evolution of batteries and the battery war and just in general. You guys, it's like constantly like, okay, how can we up our storage? How can we make it cheaper? How can we make it lighter? How can we increase the technology? And it's phenomenal. It's super exciting stuff. AP box, people had a lot of questions about that. What is the cost on the AP box? Do you know?
I don't know how they have it priced in your system. I can assume that the product is probably about $650 to $700.
Okay.
That's just the product itself, right? And
obviously you have installation and
yeah,
you know.
It's not a hard thing, right? It's just essentially the AP box is just a relay, right? That houses CTs and breakers. But again, it's kind of it's a smart relay. Think of it as, how do I do it? It's the best way to explain it. It's like when like people have the car, they like expand the roof and then like they put like a camper on top instead of towing it behind. It's one of those things that's just very easy to add on to connect to pre-existing systems as well. It's a way for us to track that data and have logic where we can control the system, right? We can shut it off. We can tell the system to only net meter, right? Don't charge this solar to the battery, charge this solar to the battery, right? So there's little kind of finite logic points using the AP box that just makes it really diverse.
Cool. Thank you for that. Jesse asked, could you talk a little bit more about Black Start and how that works?
Yeah. So with Black Start, I'll use an example. I had a guy in Florida, right? He drained his batteries completely, like in the morning. He's like, dude, I had power for like 3 days and all of a sudden, poof, it was gone. I'm like, all right, let me look at your data, right? And so we're looking at his app and we can see that at 9 a.m. when he hadn't been charging his battery all night, he had his air conditioning running, and then he also got in his hot water heater, right? Got in the shower, took a hot shower, and he was running full speed on that battery he had about 10% of it left, right? Till he drained it down to 0. But because he was using so much power, wiped the battery, right? It's dead. The only way to bring something like that back online when it happens is with a generator. Now, this is very common with other batteries that don't keep a reserve, right? Franklin allows you to use all 15 kilowatt hour and still have room to drain it. So fun fact, okay, Jared, I'll ask you, why do solar systems shut down when the grid's down?
Solar systems shut down when the grid's down because, well, are you saying without a battery?
Yeah, with no battery. Why
yeah, because you have nowhere to put the power.
Right. So you're saying because the power is just going to go straight onto the lines and it's just going to be a fire.
Correct.
Okay. So actually, fun fact, not true. That is not the reason that's what the AC disconnect is for. That's why when your utility comes to work on a property where they're on the lines, they're going to kill that AC disconnect on the system so that power can't go back. The reason your solar system goes down is your inverter requires power. If there's no grid connection, there's no power to the inverter. It can't power the solar panels. So that keeping that extra kilowatt hour, that can handle the 100 watts, right, of startup, even in low light, that's going to require to keep the inverter going to at least get a charge to the battery after it's been killed and dead, instead of having to drive out there with a generator and plug it in and fire it back up.
What's the lowest of reserve that you would recommend? Like 10%, 5%? I mean,
use it all. I mean, if you're in if I'm off grid, if I'm in an outage, I want all my power, right? What I'm going to try to do is manage it, right? I don't want to go kind of like on a road trip, right? I don't want to take the gas tank down to 5 miles of gas left if I've got 10 miles to the next gas station, right? So there is an element of manual control that people need to take into consideration, right? Hey, if I'm in a multi-day outage, I'm living off grid, maybe reconsider how I do things, when I do things, right? And operate accordingly. But no, you can use the whole battery all the way through. Recommend.
But so maybe I missed this. But you're saying if you use the whole battery, you're going to need a generator to pop it back on?
No. So that's what I'm saying. That's the Franklin why you don't. And we actually have an additional piece called the main load relay that some of your installers may elect to choose depending on the install. I know Sonova requires it on their systems. And what that does is that actually disconnects all the house loads so that the solar in low light will bring power to the system. Because what happens is your system keeps trying to start, your house is using too much power, right? And it never really fires up, and it just ends up kind of falling off.
Cool.
So
Thank you. How many batteries can you run with one A-gate?
15.
Woo!
Someone asked,
That's
can
like
a battery go on a south side of a house, Justin?
Yeah, depends where you live. Arizona, no, I would not recommend it. Right. Same
asking
thing
for
with
trouble.
West. Yeah. But again, up to 130 degrees. So as long as that, you got to take in consideration how hot it gets in your area. I would not, we had a system that sat in Bakersfield for like a year, just exposed under the sun while before they built the covering for it. It was like a 6 battery off-grid system. It did fine. It got through it without any problems, but I don't recommend it for the life of the battery.
Gotcha.
Hey, Justin. If you have a 400 amp split main panel, do you have to have 2 A gates
Yes. If you want to bring power to both
to both sides? Okay.
both downstream panels. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, for sure. You got to treat them like 2 separate systems, but in the app, it'll show it as one.
Someone asked, and I can answer from my experience a little bit, coming from non-time of use territory, like Nevada, for example, where it's 70% buyback, the time of use is not going to be obviously a real selling point at this time, but the blackout protection and it's called Storm Hedge. So it's an intelligent feature where it knows a storm is coming to make sure to reserve the battery capacity. So it does have that feature for Franklin called Storm Hedge. And even in that market where you get 70% of retail through net metering, those 15 kilowatt hours can be used to save that delta, right? So you're not losing 30% when you send it back. You get to then take it back throughout the evening or night. So there's a little bit of payback, but obviously the bigger selling point is going to be blackout protection, the storm hedge, prepping for the future, not a noisy generator, save the fridge food. I mean, on and on and on, depending on each market. So
Right. Yeah. In Arizona, we have 4-cent energy, and then you have 36-cent energy. So it doesn't make sense to get solar, right? Because you can't create it low levelized cost low enough to get to that 4 cents. What does make sense to do is cover the time between 3 and 7 p.m. when energy is 36 cents to just buy batteries and charge them when the energy is cheap. So like in Arizona, it's like all the solar companies are like, what the hell? Like this just became a battery only market overnight.
Makes a lot of sense. Bill did ask one last question. He said, does the A gate act as the load for purposes of overcoming the 120% rules? If so, could you then have 2 or 3 Franklins on a 100 amp main panel?
Yes, you can. So you're going to use PCS, Bill. You have up to 280 amp bus bar. You got 200 amp pass through. We can go as low as 60 amp.
Perfect. Hopefully that answers that for you, Bill.
I have a dumb question, Justin. So obviously the battery can take more faster, which is a big selling point. And then it can also have continuous power surge where it can give more faster than other brands. So let's say I'm in California, net metering 3.0, it's 1:00 PM and I plug my Tesla in. If the solar's not producing enough, will the battery be able to dump enough to charge my Tesla? And, I'm looking at my Tesla app and it says 40 amp. Do I need to slow the charging on my Tesla to like 20 amp because the battery and some solar won't be enough to charge my Tesla at that moment?
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I think that the max speed, right, continuous on Tesla is 64 amp continuous, right? That's like the full top speed. It can be as high as 15 kilowatt, essentially, right? Yes. So during the day, if you want to charge your car, it's going to prioritize under NEM right? So depending on what the most value is the energy more expensive than the energy that we're trying to store? But your NEM is just self-consumption, right? So it's all about timing everything. For 90% of the year, you're not playing a time of use game, because it's 42 cents at nighttime, it's 54 cents in the peak hours, and then it's 40 cents during the rest of the day. You can't hide from it, right? So my advice in California, if I'm going to charge my car, I want to charge it during the day when I have that excess energy, and more than likely the aPower and the solar will be enough, right? Now, do I want to charge my car at 4 p.m.? No, right?
Not 4 to 9.
I do believe there is a charger, or with the setting. I don't. Do you guys have your own car charger? Or not yet.
Not yet. We've messed with some things. We had a really cool thing going with Wallbox before Generac bought them.
Okay, because I do believe like Tesla and Enphase, their specific chargers, you could set it to where it'll take any of the excess. So if you're powering your home, the battery's full, rather than sending it back for fractions of a penny, you could take that excess and charge your car during the day with that, so you're not losing anything. And that's killer.
Yeah, that's coming. If it's not already, I mean, I'm pretty sure that logic's programmed in. I know that right now we're doing something similar with the smart circuits, because now there's CTs on the smart circuits, so we can kind of like, if we don't want our house to go over a certain demand, turn off, like prioritize things to shut off automatically, or in the other direction, revert power back to stuff on a oversupply.
Perfect. And then we'll do one last one, and because we got to wrap this up. Ringo said, Justin, other than EV chargers, what is next for Franklin? Like, what do you see?
Come to San Diego next week for Intersolar. We'll be announcing our hybrid aPower S, so our new solar inverter / battery product. And one of the things I love about it is it's hybrid, but it's not the same as Tesla. It's actually 2 inverters and a single battery operating as a hybrid. So you get that more robust, stronger output, right? But you won't need an inverter from Enphase or SMA or Solar Edge, right? You'll be able to plug the PV right in.
I think next is the battery we just launched today, guys.
It's here today. Like,
our best, fastest battery, good storage size, the best warranty, and we have a meter collar coming in a few months, like period. So that's what's next. Sell what you have.
Amen.
Well, hey, did we mention it's the same cost? It's like the same cost as the one before.
And you can change the colors on the side of it.
Whoa. Wow.
There you go. Well, cool. Thank you guys. Drop Justin some love. Super appreciate everybody coming on here. Go sell some Franklin, everybody.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate you.
You too, buddy.